Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here, host of the podcast Dare Me. If you're about to tune into our program, we just wanted to give you fair warning that if you're easily triggered by mention of specific drugs, you may want to think twice about watching our program. Also, if you're easily offended by strong language, again, you may want to reconsider watching our program. We don't hold any punches. We keep it real, and it can get raw sometimes on this show. So just wanted to give you fair warning. We do hope you tune in, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Live.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Dare Me podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Victor, along with my partner in crime, Dean Baker. What's happening, Dean?
I'm doing well.
All
Sunday
right.
night. All right.
Yeah, I hear you. Our brand new time. So it's 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, where I'm at in Sacramento, and 9 o'clock on the East Coast in Orlando, Florida, where Dean is at right now. Dean is my co-host and producer for the show, handles all the behind-the-scenes stuff, the camera angles, the mic levels, the graphics, and all that good stuff, and also part of the show, chimes in on the conversation. So, Dean, appreciate you being on with us here today. I've been really looking forward to this edition of the show. As you know, Dean, we've made a lot of progress since we first started the program in terms of like fine-tuning and tweaking all the things. I know right now we are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitter. And on that note, I want to recap that the live thing was never really the original vision. The original vision was just getting these things in the pod, if you will, these programs, and then them being out there for anybody to watch or listen to anytime they might want to. But going live is kind of cool in a way because we can get participation from our viewers and listeners, and we'd really like to encourage anybody. We'll give the show a little time for more people to jump on, but anybody who might like to participate, join in the conversation, be part of the program today. We'll have some links in the chat. We can bring you on live video where we can see you. If you don't want to be on camera, you can call in. We'll post a telephone number shortly, or if you're not even comfortable doing that, you can just chime in and join the conversation in the chat. So with all that said, just kind of want to go along with my little outline that I have for the program today. We're going to get into some fun stuff, and we're going to try to, again, get people to participate in the program a little bit sooner than we have with some of our past episodes. I know I get a little long-winded sometimes and, go on my little rants or whatever you might want to call it, and put off getting people involved till near the end of the show. We're going to try to get people involved a little bit sooner today. In any case, I'd just like to recap a little bit about the whole intention of this program and what the whole idea of even doing this show was all about. And it's all about trying to help anyone who may be looking for a way out of being addicted to opiates, or really any drug for that matter, any kind of drug it might be, including alcohol. And my personal experience is a lot of what I'll share and do share on this program. I was addicted to opiates for 9 years, and it was horrible. It truly was a horrible experience going through the withdrawals those last couple of years, fighting through it all. I'm so proud and fortunate to be able to say today, and humbled, quite frankly, to have over 2 years clean off the opiates. I am drug-free today. Like I say sometimes, I don't even take cholesterol medication anymore.
Are you non-GMO as well?
Yeah. The only drug is I like drinking zero sugar Pepsi, by the way, and coffee. So, I have caffeine, but that's it, And I'm just so fortunate Because as we've talked about on this program, and I even did a reel about it this past week, according to the latest stats from, the Fed and the different government agencies, about 220 people die in our country every single every day from an opiate overdose. Just opiates, y'all. That doesn't even include people dying from other drugs and all. So, I've said it before on this show. I'm going to say it again. We go for, between an hour and a half on this program, and by the time we're finished, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. Just freaking blows my mind, man. Think about it, y'all. There's only 365 days in a year. 220 people a day, 8 to 10 by the time we finish the show. And, you got to think about this too, it's horrible. Those people are dead and gone. We also want to remember how many other people it affects, their families, their sons and daughters, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, friends, and, it's just, and the whole cost to society and everything else. It is truly, truly a national tragedy. And I talk about it here in the U.S. It is a worldwide problem. And so, yes, my personal experience was awful. I do want to say this. Once again, I've said it on the show before. I'll say it again. We're not coming after anybody's pain meds. If you're legitimately taking opiate medication for a very serious condition like cancer or what have you, do you. What we're trying to do on this program is help anybody who may have gotten addicted to opiates and become physically dependent on them things, because you do become physically dependent and addicted on them. You go through horrible withdrawals trying to get off that stuff. And if you are watching this program, you came across this program and you're looking for a way out, that's who we're here to talk to today. We're not trying to go after anybody's meds. You do you. If you are looking for a way out, there's some things we're going to be talking about that I personally know can help you if you truly want to get off of opiates. And you can go back and watch some of our previous episodes. Man, it just blows my mind. We're already into episode 4 of this program. Where in the world does the time go? And so, yeah, they're out there on the Dare Me YouTube channel, the Dare Me Facebook page. They're out there, believe me. You can watch the first 3 editions of the show, and there's a ton of information we've already shared, practical solutions, suggestions, ideas for people looking for a way out. And not to get too repetitious, but we're going to review those on a pretty regular basis on this program and go back over some of them. I wanted to share this real quick, talking about how time flies. Dean, you know this. I came across a video when, I was moving from Orlando almost a year ago, of a television show I hosted back in 2000 on Orange County TV that's all about living drug-free. And there was a panel of speakers and whatnot, and you digitized that for me because it was on VHS. That was a long time ago. But I posted that on the Dare Me and the Glenn Victor YouTube page, Glenn Victor TV, and I also put it out there on Facebook. And so it's only about 45 minutes, but just kind of blows my mind, man. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's 23 years ago, and I did go back and watch that program. And it's just as relevant today as the day we did it, if not even more, in light of the whole opiate epidemic. So, yeah, man, time sure does fly. So, anyway, that's a little bit of a recap of the purpose of the show. as I've said, if we can help even one person, even just one, by doing this program, then it's all worth it to me. Because, I've even talked about this on the show. It takes a little bit to put yourself out there the way I have, You do get a little self-conscious. You kind of second-guess yourself, like, oh, God, what have I done, My reputation, the ego kicks in and all that shit, And we got a DM last week. It was before last week's show from our friend Rob. And Rob sent me a message. We showed on the program last week thanking us for doing this show and thanking me personally for telling my story. And he mentioned that his brother is really going through it and struggling with addiction right now, and that, the things we're doing here are making a difference. And so just 3 episodes, 2 really, into the program to get a message like that, I'm totally convinced we are on the right path. We're doing the right thing, and I think we've already made a little bit of a difference, Dean. And as you know, we've committed to doing this program for a whole year. We'll kind of reevaluate where we at as the year comes, up. But yeah, there you go. Those are the videos I posted there.
Sorry, I'm running a little behind here. So
no, you're good, man. This is, one was the benefits of recovery from addiction, and then the other one was all about managing a drug-free workplace. And you can see your old pal Glenn Victor looks a hell of a lot younger in those 2 thumbnail photos for those videos. But they're great programs. They really are. Those were done in cooperation with what's known as the Orange County Coalition or Orange County Office for a Drug-Free Community right there in Central Florida in Orlando. And that's still a thing and was way back then. And so to come across those programs, I had them I got so much stuff I've saved over the years. Got air checks I'm going to put out there one day of, TV work, media work I did in Orlando and all. Even stuff from Detroit, man. I got a couple talk shows I did, and we're going to have some fun with those moving forward. So, yeah, lots of cool, fun stuff coming up on this podcast of going back and reviewing all kinds of stuff like that. So, anyway, that's kind of the lowdown on what this show is all about, what we're trying to do here, trying to help people. Also going to try to keep it current, too, and talk about current events and all. And I got a couple things we were going to talk about. Before we do, though, I want to do some shout-outs. And we're going to try to do that right near the beginning of each show, do some shout-outs. I want to send a shout-out to one of my friends in Orlando. I used to call her my work wife, my friend Carol. Carol made a big change in her life just this past, few days. And I just want to say, girl, I don't mean to sound condescending. I am so proud of you. You are a rock star, and you got this. And as you know, Carol, I understand from a unique perspective. Rock on, girl. Change your life, God, look what I did. We can absolutely reinvent ourselves and start over and hit the old reset button any goddamn time we want to in this life, and I'm just so happy for you. So also want to send a shout out to my friend Kelly. Oh my God, Kelly. She messaged me that because we changed our time, Dean, to 9 o'clock on the East Coast instead of 7, that she was going to be able to tune in. So I believe Kelly is on here live with us now. So Kelly, hopefully you can chime in on the chat if you like. Call in. We got links in there, for, joining the show. And
hey, Glenn, go ahead
go
and
right ahead.
check your comments tab.
Oh, okay.
You already got a comment, so I want you to.
I'm glad you said that because, look, Lori, and by the way, Lori, you were my next shout out on my list. It says, you're really helping me more than you know, and friendly face. And then Kelly just chimed in, Detroit in the house. So we got Detroit and Orlando and Sacramento in the house. But we got to say congratulations to Lori T., who is celebrating 15 months clean and sober today. So hey, let's hear it for Lori. Dean, we gotta come up with an applause sound effect or something. Moving forward, we'll have some sound effects. Yep, there you go. All right. Well, so there's some shout outs I wanted to do. So and we'll do some more moving forward. But like I mentioned, man, I want to talk a little bit about some current events having to do with this whole thing. So this past week, if you pay attention to stuff like this and follow the news, this was a huge development and a long time coming, in my opinion, in the whole opioid epidemic. The FDA, the Federal Food and Drug Administration, finally approved the sale of Narcan for over-the-counter sales. And if you don't know what Narcan is, you ought to. Whether you're an addict or not, certainly if you're a family or friend of someone who you may know is actively using, you want to have that stuff on hand. Narcan, really, considering 220 people dying of an opiate overdose every day, ought to be readily available almost like a fire extinguisher in most places. It is an antidote for anyone who overdoses on opiates and literally can bring them back to life and save their life. Don't want to get into any kind of scientific explanation of how it works, why it works, and all that stuff, but it works. If someone ODs, they nod out, they're unconscious, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's no silver bullet, pardon the pun. Sometimes if somebody goes too far, takes too much, and they OD, they'll literally die. However, if someone is out and they've been taking an opiate of some sort, you give them Narcan. It's almost like nasal spray. You just kind of spray it in their nose, and boom, they come back to life. It's something to do with attaching to the opiate receptors, blocks the opiates, that kind of thing. So that is huge that you can now purchase that over the counter at any pharmacy, and I'm sure that the places you'll be able to get it will be expanding soon. And I just saw Kelly just chimed in, and she put in capital letters, it saved someone very close to me. So
wow,
there
that's
you go,
powerful.
Kelly. Yeah, exactly. It just goes to show. And Dean, I appreciate you putting up that graphic. The official name of it, I think I'm pronouncing this right, is naloxone, but it's most commonly referred to as Narcan. And again, man, keep it in your car, keep it at your crib, keep it at the office. Every business ought to keep some Narcan on hand, because you just never know whether it's an employee or even a potential customer, what might happen. It's so simple, and you could literally save a life by having some Narcan on hand. So big applause to the Fed and the FDA for approving that for over-the-counter use. That's huge. So now I wanted to transition into something else, and this ain't fun to report, y'all. It's not fun at all. It was a current event this past week, and it just goes to show that sometimes you just never know about people. Dean, I had messaged you about that Casey Kasem thing and that TV news reporter. Do you think we'd be able to bring those up? Or, if not, no worries. But if you might be able to bring those two links up I sent you earlier today, that'd be great. And if you can work on that, I'll talk about this a little bit more. And then also maybe even bring up a link to the news story or photograph about this. But the chief of the San Jose Police Union this past week was charged with importing fentanyl for the past 8 years, y'all. 8 years. And that is not me taking a shot at the police. I have friends, colleagues, family that are law enforcement. I have big respect for our law enforcement. Point I'm making is that You just never know sometimes who you're dealing with, man. People put on masks. Don't be fooled, you know. And man, what's so scary about that story is, well, the whole story itself is just scary that we got, you know, law enforcement, you know, high level people involved with smuggling fentanyl into the country. Yeah, there you go, Dean. There's the headline. The San Jose Police Union executive charged with trying to import, distribute fentanyl. But this was going on supposedly for 8 years. And Dean, I don't know if you can show a picture of her because when you see a picture of her, you'd think, oh my God, I would never imagine in a million years a lady like that would be involved in something like that. And I think that it also speaks to the allure of the whole thing because all I can think to myself is the only reason someone like that would be involved with something like that is the money, the attraction of the money for the whole thing. So it's just insane, man. It just blows my mind when I hear stories like that. And that was on the national news, and certainly it was really a big story here on the West Coast. I'm in the Sacramento area. San Jose ain't that far from here, about an hour and a half or so. And to hear a story like that, it's just crazy. So you just never quite know who you're dealing with. You know, it reminds me of, man, an old saying that, President Reagan said, trust but verify, you know. And my mom used to tell me that her old man taught her a saying, love many, trust few, but always paddle your own canoe, you know. And so the point I'm making is, man, you know, and I had talked to you, you know, briefly about that Casey Kasem clip and the news reporter. What I was just going to comment on about those things, if Dean might be able to bring them up at some point in the show, is people are not always who you think they are. You know, Casey was this widely respected top 40 countdown radio guy for years, and may he rest in peace. You know, he had a Detroit connection, by the way. He's a Detroit guy. But he goes on this rant once, kind of off the air, but somebody recorded it, and it's hilarious to me if you play it. And then you got that TV reporter. I'm sure a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Where, you know, he's doing a report, and there's a clip of him. He's out in his field, out in the country somewhere, and a bug flies in his mouth, and his personality changes like that from being this very professional reporter giving this report to going on a rant. And so the point I'm making is sometimes people, there you go. Okay, let's see if we can hear it, Dean. That is the actual link.
This
right
one
there.
right here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one right there. Okay, let's listen to Casey.
Long-distance dedication. And this one is about
You hearing this okay?
Yeah, turn it up a little
a
if you can.
situation that we can all understand, whether we have kids or pets or neither. It's from a man in Cincinnati, Ohio, and here's what he writes. Dear Casey, this may seem to be a strange dedication request, but I'm quite sincere, and it'll mean a lot if you play it. Recently, there was a death in our family. He was a little dog named Snuggles, but he was most certainly a part of... Let's go start again.
All right, here we go.
From coming out of the record. Play the record.
Can you turn it up a little, Dean, if you can?
Please.
Okay, that's
I
good.
can't, yeah.
Here we go.
See, when you come out of those up-tempo goddamn numbers, man, it's impossible to make those transitions, and then you got to go into somebody dying. You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for, but goddamn it, if we can't come out of a slow record, I don't understand it. Is Don on the phone? Okay, I want a goddamn concerted effort to come out of a record that isn't a fucking up-tempo record every time I do a goddamn death dedication. Now, make it, and I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week. This is last goddamn time. I want somebody to use his fucking brain to not come out of a goddamn record that is that's up-tempo, and I got to talk about a fucking dog dying.
I'm sorry, y'all. I know that was laced with profanity. Part of the reason we do the disclaimer at the beginning of this show. Yeah, and Dean, while I'm talking about that, if you might be able to find that TV reporter with the bug in his mouth, that is a real, very well-known clip. I'm sure you'll have no trouble finding it. The point I was making, y'all, when it came to me, the idea of showing that clip is... For those of y'all in my age group, you remember Casey Kasem. He was like the Ryan Seacrest of, of my younger years. This clean cut, all-American guy with the top 40 countdown and all that. And so we all had this squeaky clean image of him in our mind, but yet you hear him go on this fucking rant. And so the point, I guess, again, that I'm making is we all wear these masks. We put on this uniform. Don't fall for that shit, man. Always take shit with a grain of salt. Just like that lady in San Jose, who, Dean, if you can find her picture, I'd like to show her picture because it'll surprise people. When you see her, you would never imagine in a million years that she would be importing fentanyl for 8 years as the chief of the police union in San Jose.
Yeah, I did. The page I went to kind of all of a sudden kind of hacked my browser and I lost you for a moment. So I kind of disappeared, and then something was weird about the page that I went to.
Yeah, well, it's out there in any
Yeah.
case for anybody who may be listening that may want to, check it out. And, it just goes to show. And you know what? It even got me thinking about, myself, for example, in doing this show. One thing I will tell y'all, with this show, you're seeing the authentic Glenn. In case you haven't figured that out yet. Loose with the lips and telling my story and everything else, man. I wore masks for a lot of years, man. Oh my God! Throughout my career, I mentioned my friend Carol. I was telling her, man, I would sit in the parking lot. There's a meme and a TikTok clip out there. This guy, he's sitting in his car in the parking lot, getting ready to go in his job, right? And some of y'all probably seen this, and he goes, "God damn! Now I gotta go in here for 8 hours and act like I give a shit about this fucking place, and it's hilarious to watch. But, at the end of the day, we all gotta get paid. We gotta make a living, so we do. We go into these jobs, we put on these masks, we play these roles, but the point I'm making is, I think sometimes, man, we just are so naive and we fall for shit, man, and it's ridiculous. Like that old saying, I was talking to a buddy about this the other day, put on a Dr. Schmuck and carry a clipboard with you, and you can go just about anywhere you want. People will open doors for you. They won't ask questions, and people do this kind of shit all the time. People can really be phonies out there. The old saying, I am an actor and all the world is my stage. And you know what, y'all? Being honest, I played that role too. We all have to play different roles in our life. All I'm saying is, when it comes to shit like drug dealing and fentanyl and drug use, always remember, things are not always as they appear. And so, in any case, man, yeah, that was a sad one to hear about that, a chief of a police union in a city as big as San Jose involved in, smuggling fentanyl that's killing people at the rate of, 220 people a day. Just fucking blows my mind. So, anyway, moving on. Let's talk about something a little more upbeat. Go ahead.
Moving on. Do you want to invite people to join us live, StreamYard?
Absolutely.
I'll post it in the comments.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that because I got a bunch of other stuff we're going to talk about. But if somebody wants to come in live right now, let's bring them in. We got a link where we can bring you on live on camera, or let's put the phone number out there too in case somebody.
It's in the chat.
Call in.
It's in the chat, so all they have to do is click on that link, and then of course it'll show up, and we have to still let you in to the conversation, but feel free right now, limited time only.
Now that's for the live video feed.
That's
right?
for to connect with us on camera, sound, whatever they got.
Okay. I thought we had to give them a phone number if they wanted to just call.
Well, everyone's using either their phones or their computers these days, so either way they could plug that. Yeah.
In any case, if someone is watching live right now, just look in the chat there, and if you want to become part of the show, just click the link. It'll get you right to Dean, and we can bring you on and talk about whatever you might want to talk about today. So, in any case, moving on to some other current event stuff, the acronyms for this show, for the name of the show, Dare Me, are across the top of the screen there. Drugs, addiction, recovery, enlightenment, music, exercise, all of my favorite topics, and all having to do with this whole thing of getting off of drugs and how they play such a huge role, or certainly can play a huge role. And for me, music is definitely one of them. I've been a music guy for my whole life. For people that know me well, know I've made a living, as a disc jockey since I was a kid. And throughout my whole career, I even, had my own businesses, worked on DJ businesses, worked on the radio in addition to being a business person, all that kind of stuff. And to this day, I still am obsessed with music, performing music. Some of y'all know I've been going hard at learning auto-tune software. I have a music studio here at the house, I try to cover a song on the daily and go in and play with it on auto-tune. I put some stuff out there on social media, some stuff I've covered, and some original shit, I'm just having fun with it, y'all. I just love doing it. But also, I love going to shows. And I went to a show here in Sacramento this past week, and it was unbelievable. I went to see this group, Greta Van Fleet, who are out of the Detroit area, a city not too far out of Detroit called Frankenmuth. And man, if you never heard of Greta Van Fleet, I highly recommend you check them out. A lot of people say they remind them of Led Zeppelin, that old classic rock sound from back in the 70s, even into the 80s. Zeppelin was probably at their peak. But man, even now, they just love all their music. Anyways, Greta Van Fleet is keeping that type of rock and roll alive, and the guys are all in their 20s. And there were over 18,000 people at the Golden Center downtown Sacramento for that show. It was the last show of that tour. And man, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed that program, or that concert, I should say. It was absolutely insane. They really did a good job. Another thing I wanted to talk about, I'm going to be going to some shows in a couple of weeks, so I don't know if we're going to be able to do the program live in a couple of weeks. We may do a rebroadcast of a previous episode, but we'll see. Might be able to go live from my hotel room in West Hollywood. I'm going to be out there. Coachella is coming up. I'm not going to Coachella. I thought about going. But I decided that I didn't want to go be out there with all them people at the festival waiting in line and dealing with all that stuff, man. You kind of get spoiled when you go to these shows at these smaller venues where you're comfortable, you got a seat, got your soda, whatever, chilling and all that. However, a lot of the groups and artists that perform at Coachella, they do what they call these side shows around town. And so there's a couple of artists doing sideshows down there. The weekend, I'm going down on a Sunday, and then I'm going to stay till Wednesday. But on Monday the 17th, my girl Benny is playing at the Roxy. And then the very next night, Cannons is playing at the Roxy as well. So I'll be down in West Hollywood for those two shows. 2 weeks from today is when I head down there. So if I get down there in time, we'll try to go live from the hotel room, Dean. A little bit of a different setup and background, but we'll see. In any case, I just thought I'd mention those two shows, man. And, if you're into music, you're not familiar with who Benny or Cannons are, I highly recommend you check them out. Then something else happened this week. I've promoted this young girl many times. Her name is Claire Rosencrans. And Claire, if you happen to come across this by any chance, we hope you're feeling better. She's been under the weather for about a month, and she had to reschedule her concert in San Francisco that I have tickets to. Actually have a meet and greet for her and her dad a couple of times. She just got really sick, and now the show's been rescheduled till July 14th. But man, if you're looking to check out a great young artist, I think she's 20 years old, Claire Rosencrans. Her and her dad, who's closer to my age, I think he's younger than me, but in any case, write all her music together. She has this huge following, mostly younger people, but hey, man, I love her music and can't recommend checking her out enough. There's videos out there of her sitting on her dad's lap at the piano when I think she was like 5 or 6 years old, and just has really great music out there. So anyway, that show's been rescheduled. Hopefully Claire is feeling better real soon. So anyway, wanted to transition into something else here. I talked about a practical idea, suggestion, recommendation for anyone who may be going through opiate withdrawals a couple of weeks ago. And if you may decide to try to kick at home, which again I'll talk a little bit more about on this show, you're going to go through some hell and you're going to get some insomnia. So one thing you can do is line up some movies that you may want to watch. Movies you've been thinking about. It'll help kill the time, believe me. And one in particular that I recommended a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to recommend it again. It's a documentary, and I know you can see it on Prime. It's called The Neuroscience of Addiction. And it won't take you long to watch. It'll kill probably about 2.5, 3 hours. I think there's a half dozen episodes of it out there that are about a half hour long. One of the best docs I've ever seen on going through addiction issues and trying to come out of that. It'll help you to understand the whole physical component of it and the psychological component. They talk a lot in that documentary about how drugs and addiction affect the brain and how the brain wires itself and rewires itself and all that. And so because I talked about it a couple weeks ago, I actually went back and watched the first episode of it over the weekend. And yeah, absolutely, man. That's like the third time I've seen it now. Absolutely cannot recommend that enough. It is really, really good. Will help you to understand a little bit more some of the things you're going through if you're trying to kick dope. So anyway,
speaking of that, I know you're going to probably bring it up, so I'm jumping the gun a little bit. I just watched episode 1 of Dope Sick today.
Was the next thing on my list.
Sorry, I jumped your gun.
No, I'm glad you did because I want to ask you about it in a second. But I thought, okay, so I talk about the neuroscience of addiction, but there's a ton of stuff out there, movies, documentaries on dealing with this topic. So if someone is joining in and watching this show, where are you going to go with it after this show's over when you're done? We give you tons of things we can suggest, recommend, places to go. We talked about some of the other YouTubers that I'll talk about again, Chris Nall and some of the other guys that helped me when I was going through it. But that was the next one on my listing. It's that television series called Dope Sick that stars Michael Keaton.
And it's on Hulu.
I absolutely want to hear what you think of it, Dean. You say you watched the first episode. What did you think of it?
I've been running 100 miles an hour all weekend, and so I told you this afternoon I got back and I was just kind of slammed, and I thought, I might take a nap just so I could be alert, and so instead of that I just couldn't, and then I said, no, I'm going to throw Dope Sick on. Michael Keaton, I mean, love him, great actor. It moved very slow, but you have to pay attention. I'm gonna I think there's an echo I'm throwing around here. It moves slow, but if you pay attention, it jumps around in the timeline from when Oxycontin comes onto the scene to when they're coming around to like a few years later, early 2000s, when they're actually trying to investigate all the epidemic of criminal activity based around Oxy.
Yep.
And of course, then they're paralleling 3 different kind of areas. There's 2 criminal prosecutors that are looking into it, and they're interviewing people, and there's a conspiracy, and then they're showing the family.
Yeah.
And they're creepy. Oh my
the
God,
big
they're
pharma family.
The pharma family. They are so, and it's a private family that
Yeah.
owns
Oh,
this
yeah.
this empire,
Yeah.
and
Still.
that one guy, um,
Yeah.
that I mean, he's so creepy. He was
He
also
is
on
creepy. Yeah.
that
Good actor.
Steve Buscemi, Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He played one of the criminal crime bosses in Boardwalk Empire. So I just watched that, and then I saw him, and he was so creepy in this. And you almost kind of wonder if he's hooked on some drug, maybe that
What is that?
drug.
Is it? I'm trying to remember the Sackler family. Is that the name of the folks from that pharmacy? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
a privately owned pharmaceutical company. So
Yep.
initially they were, I remember
Yep.
the two prosecutors were kind of talking about it, and they're talking to their boss, and they're going, "Oh, you don't want to go after a publicly traded company. You're going to have, $1 billion company. You're going to have all kinds of problems." And they said, "No, they're private."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
then, yeah,
and as you know, Dean, there have been huge settlements with these pharmaceutical companies in terms of similar to like the tobacco lawsuits, where
yeah,
they've had to pay millions and millions of dollars toward trying to help people who got caught up in all that addiction and all. I've read a lot of stories that quite frankly, it was just a drop of water in the ocean compared to the profits that they made, the settlements they made to try to help clean up some of the mess. But in any case, that show, although it's it's clearly a show made for television,
yeah,
is based on a true story.
yeah,
And there were a couple storylines for. I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and like yourself, Dean, I really like Michael Keaton.
yeah,
There were a couple storylines in there where I thought, well, what does this have to do with it? Like the one girl and her relationships and things, and I thought this doesn't have anything to do with this topic, but it keeps people's attention and keeps them watching.
sure.
But, there's that old saying, man, truth is stranger than fiction, and so although it's a good show, the real story of what happened and is still happening now
Yeah.
is even more bizarre than that show. But I do highly recommend for anyone, if you're going through it, by all means, watch Dope Sick. And I think for anyone, quite frankly, should educate themselves and watch that program. Like I said, kind of take it with a grain of salt because it is a TV show, but it is based on a true story of what happened in this country with the whole opiate epidemic. So, yeah, Dean, I'll be curious to talk to you more about it when you
Sure.
finish the whole series. Cause,
I just thought I'm only one and a half episodes in, but I just thought that Michael Keaton's character played a doctor with a conscience,
yeah, he
and
does a
then
good job.
they did introduce another doctor who was the initial doctor that brought people into this public service announcement that the company was doing, and I mean, you could tell he's the Dr. Feelgood, the one
Yeah.
who's paid incredibly well, who literally just kind of like, I'm here to manage my patients, and he wasn't going to change. And
Yeah.
I wonder if that doctor is actually, I mean, if that's a true story specifically about him, or just a characterization.
Yeah.
Of,
Well, at the very least, I would recommend for anybody who sees this, watch the trailer and see if it gets your attention. I see we've got a few people that are still on with us live, so hey, if any of y'all watch the series, we'd be curious to hear what you thought of it. So, in any case, that's one to check out. Now, here's another one that I thought we'd talk about today. And again, man, if you're going through withdrawals and you got that insomnia and you're tossing and turning off freaking night, going through hell, something that I watched during it. Maybe it ain't for everybody. It could even be a trigger for some people. But I watched a lot of movies having to do with drug addiction and documentaries and stuff like that. And for anybody who maybe may not be familiar with something like this, one of the best movies I've ever seen in terms of accurately showing what opiate withdrawal can be like is a movie called Candy. And that particular movie starred Heath Ledger and this girl, Abby Cornish, who plays Candy in the movie. And for those of y'all that remember, Heath Ledger died from a drug overdose, which is kind of ironic because this movie is all about him and this actress, Abby Cornish, Candy in the movie, being addicted to opiates, to heroin. And they're trying so hard to kick and turn their lives around. And there's this one particular part of the movie where it shows what they're going through trying to kick in the withdrawals. Blows my mind, man. For me, like I said, while I was going through the withdrawals over, all those days that it took to get through the worst of it, just watching something like that, I think in a way helped me to feel like I wasn't alone, like I wasn't the only one, that, you can get through this. It is possible, even to kick at home. I'm not recommending anybody kick at home. I'm not recommending you don't. I'm telling my story and what happened with me, because we're going to talk about that in a minute, too. In any case, highly recommend checking that movie out, but fair warning, if that could be a trigger for you, man, that one is a trip. There and going back to kind of current events, there was a movie that opened a week ago Friday that I really want to see. Has to do with addiction to opiates. It's called A Good Person, and it stars Morgan Freeman and the actress Florence Pugh. And, I'm not really giving anything away, no, spoilers here. It's all out there and in the trailers and everything. But Florence Pugh plays this girl who gets addicted to opiates, and there's a storyline leading up to that, a car crash and all that stuff. And her and Morgan Freeman, which there's a relationship there with her and Morgan Freeman's son, they end up bumping into each other at a 12-step meeting and form this friendship and this bond. I have not seen the movie yet. I can't wait to see it. If anybody, I see Kelly chimed in, have not seen the Dope Sick show, but she loves Michael Keaton. So, yeah, definitely check that out, Kelly. Dean, here's a graphic for A Good Person. And for everything I'm hearing, it's a great movie. And certainly timely with the whole opioid epidemic still, a thing, and killing all these people every day we talked about. So, definitely going to see that one. If anybody who may be watching live has seen it, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us what it's all about and what you thought of it.
Yeah, so, it's in theaters now, right?
Yeah, it's in theaters now. It opened a week ago Friday. Okay. So just going to talk about a couple more movies, and then we'll move on to some other topics. Highly recommend this one to anyone that may be trying to get clean and thinking about possibly attending some 12-step meetings, whether it be AA, NA, OA, CA, fucking A, as I jokingly but half serious say sometimes. And we're going to talk about those programs much, much, much more in depth as this program moves along. I've made no secret of it. I've talked about it many times on this program and a lot of the other social media stuff I put out there. I'm a 12-step guy. I have been most of my life. First time I got clean was as a younger man at 25. I'm 61 now. So, that is my life. It's like what I've talked about earlier in the show. You're seeing the authentic Glenn now. None of those masks I wore during all my working life, my business life, and all that shit, I didn't always broadcast it back then. I never hid it. I didn't, ever deny it, that I was an addict or involved with 12-step programs. I was just very cautious in my professional life about putting it all out there because of the stigma attached to it, and that's part of the reason even for this program is trying to get away from that whole stigma, recover out loud and all that kind of stuff that we've talked about and we'll talk about some more. Thing of it is, though, there is a movie out there that would really help anybody trying to understand the 12-step programs and the history of how they all got started. For anybody who's a program person that may come across this or watching it, you're going to know all this already. There's a guy named Bill Wilson, may he rest in peace, and a guy who was known as Dr. Bob. They are considered to be the very first two AA members, the founders, if you will, of Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. The program of which NA, Narcotics Anonymous, grew out of. And we're going to talk a lot more about that history later in this program. Not necessarily today, but as we move along. So in any case, Bill Wilson is kind of considered the first founder, and then him and Dr. Bob kind of partnered up to get the thing rolling. So there's a movie out there called My Name is Bill W. It's a Hallmark movie, one of those Hallmark movies out there. And it is one of the best movies that you'll ever see about the whole 12-step programs and the history of AA, how it all got started. For program people, it's very moving. Yeah, there it is. It stars James Woods. He plays Bill W. And James Garner plays Dr. Bob. James Garner from the old Rockford Files. Of course, I'm dating myself there. Our younger friends won't know who Rockford was. But in any case, that is the movie. And if you wanted to find out some more about it, you can look it up on Wikipedia like Dean's got there. There's trailers out there. I just can't recommend that movie enough. If you're thinking about maybe attending a 12-step meeting, whether it be AA or NA, to try to work your way through, an addiction, whether it be to opiates or alcohol or any other drug for that matter. It's an outstanding movie. And, on that note, there is a place that I've been to, and I'm going to show some pictures on another edition of the show and talk more about this. There's a place in Ohio that was the home of Dr. Bob. Bill and Bob are both passed away now, but as we all know, AA and certainly NA now have grown to be these huge programs literally around the world that millions of people have attributed their sobriety to and swear that these programs have helped save their life. Hello, I'm one of them. It's helped save my life 3 times now. And, I often say that those programs don't have a silver bullet on how to get and or stay clean and sober. I say that a lot. There's some what I call program purists, the NA gurus or the AA gurus or whatever, who swear by them programs, and God bless them, man. I really do. I love y'all. Yeah, I do. I'll also say I share it a lot. Them programs have no monopoly on how to get and or stay clean. They certainly have helped a lot of people and can help you, and certainly have helped me. And I'll just put this disclaimer out there again. I'm not here representing any fucking 12-step program. NAAA fucking ain't. Nope. Just another guy trying to do the next right thing, stay clean another day. And I'm one of them guys that goes to meetings. That's all I'm saying here. So I'm talking about it. I'm recovering it out loud, putting it all out there. Ain't trying to break no traditions or represent the programs or anything like that, But hey, I can talk about whatever the fuck I want to. And that's what I'm doing right now because I want people to know and understand about those programs that could fucking potentially save their life. So anyway, on that note, you probably noticed I get a little fired up about it because some of these purists, man, blow my mind. But in any case, y'all, check out My Name is Bill W. It certainly will give you a good understanding of what those programs are about. If you've never been to a 12-step meeting and you're looking for answers, looking for a way out, God, I wish it was that easy. You just go to a couple meetings and the whole world is wonderful again and you kick and you're done. God, if it was that fucking easy, everybody'd be doing it. I often say, man, it ain't like you walk into a meeting, an NA or an AA meeting, and they sprinkle pixie dust over you and all of a sudden you're cured and everything is okay. God, I wish it was that fucking easy. No, you're going to have to do some work. First of all, if you're hooked on opiates or whatever it might be, you got to go through the fucking withdrawals. You got to detox. You got to get that shit out of your system. And I promise you, If you're watching this show and you're going through it, you can do it. You will come out the other side. I'm talking specifically about the opiates now again. I felt like I wanted to fucking die, and I thought I was going to die. It was the most horrible experience of my life that I've ever been through. Opiate withdrawals were horrible. You feel like you're literally crawling out of your skin. The cold sweats, the restless leg and arm syndrome, all this shit that I've talked about on this show before. The withdrawals are horrible. If you're trying to get through it, I promise you, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. People do it all the time. It's just horrible. And so you have to embrace the misery, walk through it. Like I've shared on this program before, one of my favorite sayings, it's attributed, a quote to Winston Churchill: when you're going through hell, keep fucking going. You will come out the other side of it. And then when you do, like I've said, I know I keep repeating this, but as I've said on this program before, there's an old saying around the program: any asshole can get clean. Anybody can. If you really want to get clean, you can get clean. Go into a detox center, go into a rehab, a treatment facility, the hospital, whatever. They'll get you clean. How the fuck you gonna stay clean when you get out of there? If you don't make some life changes, like I said, do some of the footwork that you gotta do, you ain't going to stay clean. You're going to be right back where you were, only worse. And so that is where the 12-step programs can really come into play. The AAs, the NAs of the world. You will meet new like-minded people. You will form a new circle of friends, people that are more than willing to help you, people who want to help you. And sometimes I remember when I was using, I'd think to myself, oh, man, all them pansy-ass motherfuckers in the program, goddamn, man, they can't handle it, man, It's like nothing could be further from the truth, man. You got to remember, people are in the program because they're the most partying-ass motherfuckers that are out there. They can handle it. Even myself, I like to say, I'm clean and sober now, but I'll drink any motherfucker under the table. I can, too. We used to have a couple bars I worked at, man, not to glorify the romancing and shit, but we would have contests. Okay, let's sit at this fucking bar and we're going to see who falls on the floor first. That's the kind of fucking drunk I was, So the point I'm making is, yeah, man, you ain't gonna, the programs, the 12-step programs are very, very eclectic. I can't stress that enough. There are so many different types of people and personalities. What I will say is, you ain't gonna meet a bunch of nerdy-ass, pansy-ass motherfuckers in the program. You're gonna meet some real hardcores, and you'll also meet some people who are like you. There are professionals in the program and business people and that whole kind of thing. So, I've said before on this program that, I'm hoping we might get through to some people in the professional world, because that's where I was in the whole opiate epidemic. I was working for a multi-million-dollar corporation, one of those white shirt and suit and tie guys going to work every day, high-profile media person, spokesperson, and, all that kind of stuff. And I was wearing a mask. That's why I was talking earlier, Dean, about showing that, doing that Casey Kasem thing and showing that news reporter, because, man, people can sure put on masks, but you never know what's going on in a person's life, till you walk in their shoes or hear more about them. We put on these masks, but boy, oh boy, people can be really fighting for survival behind the scenes, which is what was going on with me. So again, the point I'm making is, you go to these 12-step meetings, you will meet a wide variety of people. I tell people all the time who ask me about them, don't fucking judge the 12-step programs by the first meeting you go to. Don't judge the programs by the first group of people you meet, or the second or the third, or maybe even the fourth or fifth. Just keep fucking going. Try a different meeting. If you don't like one meeting in a certain part of town, go to a different part of town. You can find fucking rough and tumble meetings right down in the hood, or you can find the meetings in what I call the lily white suburbs, okay, the squeaky clean areas of town, and you will meet different personalities. You'll meet street people in the rough areas, and you'll meet the business people in the suburbs or wherever the hell you might want to go, okay? So just don't let your mind sabotage your recovery, because that's what'll happen. You're sick thinking, which it is sick, until you get yourself clean and start getting some recovery and some clean time behind you, will really try to sabotage you right out of the help you need by saying, oh, I ain't like these motherfuckers. Fuck these people, man. I ain't going to that fucking meeting. Bunch of fucking drug addicts, fucking sick-ass motherfucker. You know what? I'm talking from experience, because my mind tried to do the same thing to me. So anyway, I kind of got off on a little rant there, but back to the whole topic of what I was saying is, if you're going through withdrawals, man, you got your movies lined up to kill time while you got insomnia, highly, highly, highly recommend watching My Name is Bill W., which is the story of how AA and the 12-step programs got started. Now, there's some information leading up to it that, they can't get everything in a movie, because that's one thing I will say, man. I am definitely an educated person on that topic. I know all about the 12-step programs and the history leading up to it and all that kind of stuff. Pretty good source of information for that kind of thing. And on that note, I'll say, I'm more of a NA guy, and the person who is, commonly referred to as the founder of NA, and the guy who got the whole NA program started was a guy, may he rest in peace, Jimmy Kinnon. Jimmy K is what people around the program call him. And, he was a heroin addict, as he shared, and there's a lot of recordings of him out there still that you can hear him doing, what they call open talks at different conventions, things like that are out there on YouTube. Jimmy Kinnon, and he was going to AA meetings because there wasn't NA at the time, and, but he wasn't a drunk, he was a heroin addict. And so you get the idea. Out of that, he started NA, based on the 12 steps of AA. There you go. There's information about Jimmy. So where I was going with that is, for me personally, I have all the respect in the world for both of them programs. I can go to an AA meeting and identify. I respect AA's singleness of purpose, of focusing just on alcohol. I can go there and identify and meet basically the same type of people. And I've spent a lot of time in AA meetings over the years. My first relapse was all about booze when I got hooked on them fucking Jaeger bombs. Oh, my God, that era when them things were so huge. I know they're still a thing, but, man, when they first got huge, I got caught up in that whole thing. That's another story for another time. In any case, man, in NA, the focus is on any mind or mood altering substance. So again, if I was asked to explain the biggest difference, AA has that singleness of purpose, focusing just on staying sober and off of alcohol. NA is any mind or mood altering substance. And that's the biggest difference. And that's, quite frankly, where I belong. And as Jimmy says in some of his open talks and speeches that you can still hear that are out there. And part of the reason I went into that is because where the fuck is our movie about Jimmy K? Hollywood, all you movie producers and shit, man. This My Name is Bill W. movie's a great fucking movie. But goddamn, how about a little equal time for us NA people, man? God, Dean, I'll tell you, man, being the producer that you are, if we had the budget and the wherewithal, and oh my God, I've thought about this so many times, we could fucking do a movie, My Name is Jimmy K, or whatever the fuck. I'm telling you, bro, it would be huge. It would be a blockbuster around the world if it was done properly and professionally and all. So, I don't know, man. That's a project I don't know if you or I have the wherewithal to take on, but I sure hope somebody does eventually.
Well, somebody that was born in 1911 died in 85.
Yeah.
And of course, the Wikipedia page has no image of him. Of course, it was back then. It was still,
there's images of him out
Is
there.
there?
Though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there are. Yep,
But,
and a world of information. And by the way, here's a little sidebar to this. This is a true story, y'all. I never met Jimmy K. I didn't get to meet Jimmy K. I got clean originally near the end of 1986, but I met his wife, Betty K. A program
Wow.
lady, and yes, I did, man. It was so fucking cool. I still have a cassette tape somewhere. I'd have to find it, and I'm not sure exactly what year it was. It was the late 80s, maybe even 90. She was the main Saturday night banquet speaker at the Michigan Regional Convention of NA. They do an annual convention pretty much in every state across the country, and Betty Kay was the main speaker at the banquet. And man, I'm telling you, she was like a rock star. And I literally got to talk to her for, I don't know, maybe about 30 seconds, which may not sound like a lot, but I did. I got to give her a hug. Whoo, man, I'm trying not to get filled up. Talking about it because, yeah, for those of us that know, man, people like that, we just, we truly feel like, they were led to their purpose and, that this is all of some higher level going on, when you think about the millions of lives that have been saved and to meet someone like Betty, and I'm not sure, what's going on with Betty now. Hopefully she's still alive, I don't even know, because that was, like I said, way back in near the end of 1980s, maybe even 90. But yeah, I got to meet the founder of NA's wife, Betty Kay. How fucking mind-blowing is that? And then I was going to tell this other story. There's a house in Ohio that's known as Dr. Bob's house, and that's the house where Dr. Bob and his wife lived. And when AA first started, Bill and Bob used to bring drunks to Dr. Bob's house, and they had a spare bedroom upstairs where they would try to help detox these guys and try to work with them to help them get sober. And they literally helped countless people, and that house is considered, for people in the program, you know what I'm talking about, it's considered to be like sacred ground, Dean. And they have an event there in that area in Ohio called Founders Day every year. Thousands and thousands of people from around the world converge on this town in Ohio, and they do drive-bys and visits to this house. It's kind of like in the old neighborhood, one of them real older homes, but it's been kept up and restored and all that. And actually got to go there once. And man, that's a whole nother story. I got some really cool stories I'll tell on this program about that place. But in any case, I kind of want to move on to some other things, but the whole 12-step program thing, y'all, if you're trying to get clean, going through the withdrawals and all that stuff, once you are able to, once you can find enough energy, and by the way, you do not have to be 100% clean to go to a meeting. I never thought in a million years I'd go to a meeting using or high, but I did. When I had my relapses, I did because I had the desire, man. Nobody's going to kick you out of a 12-step meeting. It ain't going to happen unless you get, violent or belligerent or whatever. Believe me, you'll be escorted out. But nobody's going to tell you to leave because you go to a meeting loaded, You are a member of a 12-step program when you say you are. Okay, there's no papers you sign or no shit like that. And I'll tell you what, any person that you'll ever meet at a meeting, remember this, they had to walk into a meeting for their very first time too. So everyone there will get it, understand, and be supportive. So the point I'm making is, it is a support system. No silver bullet. They ain't gonna sprinkle no pixie dust on you, like I said, when you get there, okay? But it can absolutely help to keep you clean, not to mention help get you clean if you do go and you're still using, It'll help you. You'll start to hear things. You'll meet people who will become your biggest cheerleaders, things to that nature. And let me mention this. I was going to mention this. I had a friend of mine who was telling me, I'm not going to get into names and things, but I had a friend of mine telling me about a family member who was struggling and wanted my input and advice. And so I recommended, 12-step meetings, AA, NA, whatever. And I was told, he told me he went and he got kind of turned off by the whole God thing, all the Jesus people and all that, and they were literally handing out Bibles outside afterward, and he just got turned off by that. Well, you know what? Quite frankly, I think that's bullshit. Either the person was just trying to come up with a good excuse, not a reason, but an excuse to say why they weren't going to the 12-step meetings, or perhaps they were confused with another group that might do that kind of stuff. Because NA and AA, like I said, don't have no monopoly on how to help people or get or stay clean. There's a lot of other groups out there. Celebrate Recovery are usually held at churches. They're kind of more faith-based groups and different things like that. And sometimes maybe they do lean a little bit harder on the whole religion and Bible thing or whatever, Nothing against all that stuff. That's one of the reasons, y'all, why we have, there it is, enlightenment as one of our hashtags. And we're going to talk a lot more about that on this program, especially when I have some of the guests come in that we've talked about on this show as well. But the point I'm making is, you go to a 12-step meeting, don't let that turn you away, man. Don't let that turn you away. Those programs are not religious programs. They're not. Now, a lot of the meetings might be held in a church basement or rec hall or some shit, but they're not all held there. It's just that most faith groups are trying to help save people and keep them alive, so they provide meeting space real cheap, or donated in some cases. Point I'm making is they're not religious programs. Now, they are considered to be spiritual in nature, but nobody's going to force God down your throat at an AA or NA meeting. It just doesn't happen, y'all. So don't let someone fuck you into thinking that. It's not true. It's just not true. And any meeting I've ever been to, AA, NA, fucking A, all the years I've been going around, if somebody was there trying to hand out a Bible afterwards, they'd get run out of town so fucking fast it wouldn't even be funny, their head would spin. So that's bullshit. Don't believe it, y'all. Now, on that note, no disrespect to all the Jesus people and the God people and the whole everything. I'll share a little bit more later in this program about my personal experience on a spiritual level. I have a God that I choose to believe in, that I believe helps me in my life, helps me with my peace and things to that nature. And yeah, the 12-step programs have been a great tool, an avenue for me to work on that part of my life, you know what I mean? But the point I'm making is, don't let that shit scare you out of going to some AA or NA meeting like, oh God, here come the fucking holy rollers trying to pray over me and all that shit. It ain't like that, y'all. When you get into the steps, yeah, they're very spiritual based, and even in AA, there's a saying they read in one of the beginnings, like, hey man, hopefully, if there's a God, may you find him now, because when you get to a NA or AA meeting, you pretty much reach the end of the road. Nobody ends up at one of them meetings by accident. If you get there, you've pretty much got to your last resort to try to get clean or sober. So in any case, don't want to go on too much further about the 12-step meetings on this particular edition of the show, but I definitely wanted to talk about them. And Dean, I know, and I appreciate you doing this. I know you put some info out there in some of the promos for today's program that I would be talking about the 12-step programs. And so I'm glad we got to spend some time talking about them, and we will talk about them in depth on a regular basis on this program. And so on that note, let me transition into a current event, big, huge event coming up right here in Sacramento, California, next weekend. It is the annual Northern California Convention of Narcotics Anonymous, and it's taking place right here in Sacramento. They don't do it in Sacramento every single year. It's in a different city, usually every year, bops around Northern Cali. It's one of the biggest NA conventions in the world. I guess 6,000 to 8,000 people are expected for this thing next weekend. And people do come from across the country and around the world. And so, if by chance you're somebody here on the West Coast or even anywhere who may be trying to get clean, thinking about this whole 12-step thing, maybe you are clean, whatever, come on to the convention. That old saying, strength in numbers. I'll tell you what, I've been to a lot of conventions over the years, world conventions, regional conventions, city convention, more than I can even remember, quite frankly. And I always get charged up at these events, and you ride that wave after it's over for weeks on end after, and there are conventions around NA and AA going on all the time. I mean, you could literally attend one practically every weekend if you wanted to. In fact, I follow an old friend of mine, Bruce is his name. He was at the NA convention in Thailand this past week, man. It's worldwide, y'all. It is worldwide. We are everywhere. So in any case, yeah, man, I'll be down there next weekend. In fact, when we do the show next Sunday, I'll just be coming out of that convention because it starts Thursday night and goes all the way through Sunday afternoon. So you think I'm charged up now like I usually am? I'm going to be all fired up next Sunday because I'll be coming out of a 3-day NA convention. There you go, Dean. Appreciate you bringing up that graphic. There's some info about that convention taking place in Sacramento. That's a shot of San Fran, but yeah, it'll be here in Sacramento next
I just
weekend.
wanted to show the calendar there. It's the 5th to the 9th, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
right on. Yep. Man, and if you do make it out there, if you happen to know me, by all means, get a hold of me. Lori just chimed in. What'd she say? Going to West LA in May. Well, shit, if you're going to be out in the West Coast in May, Lori, you got to get a hold of me and let me know. Maybe we can grab a coffee or something together at some time. So anyway, let's move on a little bit because I want to talk about, and I'm going to tie a couple movies into this too since we've been talking about movies, but I wanted to talk about this whole concept and idea of if you're going to try to kick opiates, or any drug for that matter, whether you want to do it in a treatment center, in a rehab, a detox facility, or like me, this last time around, try to kick at home. Now, I've shared on this program, and more than happy to share my story over and over again on here, that I have been to treatment centers before. A couple of times. Did IOP stuff, intensive outpatient therapy, So I've been down that road. For the opiates, I did kick at home, so to speak. It was actually at my sister's, but nonetheless, you got to go through it somewhere. With some drugs, and I want to put this disclaimer out there again, Dean, you and I have mentioned this on this show many times. We are no medical experts. None at all whatsoever in the world will never, ever claim to be. Got to be real careful about some of the information we put out there. As my friend Shay says, some of these good sharing ass people put the wrong fucking information out there, you fuck around and kill somebody. Don't want that to happen, so I ain't trying to give nobody no bad information. As I've said on this show, y'all, do you. I ain't telling you what to do. I ain't telling you what not to do. I'm sharing my experience, what I did, and now with a couple of years clean again, what worked for me that might help you. So I chose to kick at home this time. I used a lot of different things and techniques to help me through kicking and the withdrawals. We talked about kratom on this show. We can talk about it a little bit more again today. We talked about Suboxone. We talked about methadone. By all means, if this show's got your attention and you're trying to kick, I can't encourage you enough to go back and watch the previous editions of the show. But I'll talk more about it on this one and moving forward as well. Things to that nature. Now, that's the transition into the next thing I wanted to talk about, that it can be dangerous kicking at home for certain things, like coming off of benzos or alcohol. You can go into seizure. You can go into seizures on opiate withdrawals, believe it or not, if, you're taking enough and for long enough. You got to be careful if you decide that you want to try to kick at home. And if you do, I highly recommend you make sure you got somebody close by that you can trust, that knows what you're going through and trying to do, so that if you needed medical attention quick, they can get it for you. What I will say is that there are good treatment centers out there. There's also some shady shit going on out there, y'all. Some shady ass shit. And that transitions me into my recommendation. And you'll enjoy these if you're trying to kick it home, I think. These two documentaries about the billion, yes, billion with a B, the $1 billion drug treatment center industry in the state of Florida. Okay, I'm just talking about Florida right now. $1 billion industry just in Florida, y'all. Ain't talking about no other places around the country or even other parts of the world. Talking about the $1 billion drug treatment industry. It's an industry in the state of Florida. So you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful. Do your research. If you decide to check into a treatment facility, a drug treatment facility, a rehab, a detox center, do your research. Find out about them. So here's a couple docs I'm going to recommend. There's one out there for my program friends. You'll know this. It's called Body Brokers. I ain't going to go into too much detail about what it's all about, but quite frankly, it's about people who go out and recruit drug addicts out on the streets to get them into these particular treatment facilities so that they can bill the insurance companies and make all kinds of money and all that kind of thing. And then there's another one out there called Relapse. And it follows a couple of people who go out and do the same thing. They're out recruiting people to get in these treatment facilities, and a lot of people feel like some of them, some of the shady ones, I want to be clear again, there's some goddamn good ones out there that are doing all the right things for all the right people and saving people. There's also some pretty shady ones out there. Just like what we talked about earlier, Dean, with the whole big pharma thing and that Sackler family and what was going on with all that bullshit. It's the same thing with some of these treatment centers out there. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat over here.
Okay, that was me.
People chime in.
I was kind of searching around, and I was on the FDA's site, and I was looking at their drug recalls.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, just for 2022 and 2023, dozens of them. So look here, check your cabinets. You know, big thing I was wondering if they recalled Oxy and what year they did, you know. And I've been doing a lot of the research here while I'm trying to find more information here. But I figured I'd post that link, and people should really check their medicine cabinets and make sure, you know, check the list. And anything in the last couple of years especially, there's recalls on a lot of stuff out there. Even as little as hand creams have been recalled. So to be safe, you might as well check the cabinets.
Yeah, well, and that's all great, Dean. What I'll also tell you is if somebody's a dope fiend and they're physically addicted and hooked on opiates, they ain't going to give a fuck. They don't care if it's expired, recalled, whatever the fuck. But that's great information, you know. And you know, I did want to touch on the whole treatment center thing a little bit more. There's a city in South Florida called Delray Beach. Again, a lot of my program friends will know about this already. It's considered to be the treatment center, drug treatment center capital of the world. And like I said, y'all, if you're thinking about going into a facility, wherever it may be, not just in Florida. I ain't trying to pick on Florida. I love Florida. You know, it's my second home. It's just there are some questionable facilities out there. Make sure you know what you're about to get yourself into if you do decide to check into one of them places. They aren't always what they're all cracked up to be. It's just like I mentioned about the 12-step programs, y'all. There ain't no fucking silver bullet. You're not going to go into one of those places and they're going to sprinkle the old pixie dust on you and you'll stay there for however long, a couple of weeks, a month, and come out and everything's all bright and cheery and your life's back great. No, it don't work like that, y'all. I wish it was that fucking easy. Oh my God, I wish it was that easy. And if it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it, y'all. So all I'm saying is tread carefully. I'm not saying don't go into one of them places. There's great ones out there that, like I said, I'll say it again, they're doing all the right things for all the right reasons. Great, compassionate, caring people that will give you great care and help get you clean. There are also some shady ones out there, lots of them. It's a $1 billion industry, and they prey sometimes on the vulnerable. So just do your research, or if you've got somebody helping you, because I know when you're going through it, man, your mindset ain't always the best. If you got somebody trying to help you get in a facility, just try to encourage them to do the research. Make sure that it is, in fact, a decent place. So anyway, with all that said, let me move on to another topic because we've been going for a while, and we're coming up almost on an hour and a half. I'd like to encourage, if anybody is still watching or listening live, to maybe call in or even come on live on camera. I know we're getting some activity in the chat room, which is great, and we appreciate it. But I'd love to have anybody come on live again, whether it be with a phone call or a live video chat. That'd be great. But I want to talk just a little bit about this, and then we'll bring this thing full circle and wrap it up here soon. That, it's important to know and understand that once you get clean, and then you kind of sort of start working on yourself, and before you know it, man, you're staying clean. Maybe you start going to 12-step meetings, whatever, AA, NA, whatever, You start getting involved in maybe some other things, maybe working on your physical health, going to the gym, maybe trying to work on some enlightenment things, trying some things like yoga or meditation, working on yourself, and taking time for yourself. Things are going to change. If you start staying clean, man, things are going to change in so many ways. And one of the areas they're going to change, I'm just kind of putting this out there so you're prepared, is your relationships. A lot of your personal relationships are going to change a lot. Be prepared for it, and especially when you start to get your mojo back. Because let's face it, man, when we are ready to finally ask for help and or accept help, we are at our most vulnerable. We are at the bottom, man. We truly feel like we want to die. And we're pretty much at a point where it's our last gasp, y'all, And so you got to be kind of careful at that place in your life, just like I was talking about in the treatment centers, around the programs even, and in our personal lives. There are personalities out there that will sometimes take advantage of that vulnerability. Be very careful with that. And then, like I said, there will be people that will sincerely help you for all the right reasons, whoever they may be. It could be someone in the program taking you around to meetings. It could be a family member, a wife, a husband, a son, a daughter, a sister, a brother. And then all of a sudden you start getting your mojo back. Maybe even somebody's helped you clean up your mess. Because believe me, by the time you get to NA or AA, you've created a mess for yourself in your personal life. Not just in your mind and your body, but all your business and every other goddamn thing, money, whatever, it might, legal problems. So now somebody's really helping you clean up your mess and all. And you can't even make a fucking decision for yourself to save your life, whether it be getting something to eat or, whatever the case may be. Now all of a sudden you start getting your mojo back, man. You start wanting to, your self-confidence comes back a little bit, Maybe even a little ego starts kicking in a little bit again and shit, And you start wanting to make some of your own decisions again. You start making some of your own decisions again. About managing your life, living your life, whether you want to get back to the life you had, make some changes in your life, whatever the case may be. And man, oh man, you get some pushback sometimes from some of those people that have been helping you who may think you're not doing the right fucking thing. Now, all of a sudden, they lose a little bit of control in your life. I remember the first time I got clean, I was involved in a real serious relationship with someone who we were engaged to be married for a few years and the whole 9 yards, man. And oh, God, man, God bless her. We're friends today. I don't mention her by name. We're friends. Love each other, all that. It was a long time ago. At the time, it was like, oh, God, Glenn, you need to get clean. You need to get clean, man, and pushed me and encouraged me and, quite frankly, helped me save my life. And then after I did, like I just said, boy, the dynamics of that whole relationship changed so much, man, that, eventually we ended up going our separate ways. So I'm just saying, man, I guess the point I'm trying to make is if you're going to go through this and start staying clean, your personal relationships are going to change. Be prepared for that. I'll also say, that's okay, man. Evolve. Do you. Save your own life. Anyone who really matters is going to be supportive and understand. There may be a strain on them relationships for a little while you're reinventing yourself and evolving. And quite frankly, a lot of people, I'm sure even people with me who maybe even might tune into this program or whatever will think, yeah, we'll see how long this lasts. Okay, he'll be right back to the same old fucking bullshit soon enough. He's out there now, another fucking druggie gets clean, gonna save the world and all that. I promise y'all, it ain't like that for me. There's no ego involved here. I just feel like I've been led to do this, to put myself all out there trying to help, like I said, even one person. I'll also say I can't read the future. I don't know what's going to happen. I never thought in a million years I ever would have relapsed after being clean so long. The couple times I stayed clean for the long time I did. I can't read the future. It could happen to me again. Hopefully it never does, and I keep doing the things that are helping keep me clean, even with this program. I'll also say, yeah, okay, I'm hoping we might be able to help even one person, but you know what? This is helping me too. There's a certain amount of accountability for me involved in doing this. Even like I joke about, I put all them fucking posts out there on Facebook and social media. Every time I check into the gym, I know that shit gets irritating for a lot of people. Like, oh, that motherfucker thinking all that, going to the gym all the time, got to put it all out there, But it is accountability for me to a certain extent. There's a lot of friends I have out there that we go to the gym regularly and we put it out there. Hey, checked in at the gym, and we like each other's shit, like, hey, bro, keep doing you, man. Good for you, So appreciate all the rest of y'all's patience that maybe aren't gym people. But the point I'm making is it definitely can help with the accountability of the whole thing. So going back to the whole relationship thing, y'all, just be prepared for that. Relationships will change. And there's an old saying in the programs, when you get clean, sometimes, man, you got to give up those old playmates and playthings and places, Doesn't mean you don't care about them people anymore. Doesn't mean you don't love those people anymore. It's just, for now, at least, till you get on more of a solid footing, you need to stay away from all that, man. It's very difficult to be around people drinking, partying, smoking weed, using whatever when you're trying to stay clean and sober. It just doesn't fucking work until you've been clean for a while, I'm one of them guys. I don't work the most orthodox 12-step program. I am not one of them purists, man. There are people out there who may be program people watching this thinking, oh, no, that's why you relapse, motherfucker, or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Do you and I'll do me. Point I'm making is, man, after you get a good solid footing, you've been clean and sober for a while, I'm one of them people that can believe you can do any fucking thing you want. In the AA program, it talks about that. We don't recoil from everything in the world once we get clean or sober. Once we get a solid footing, we can go and you surrender to it, as we say, and say, oh, that shit kicked my ass. Yeah, I surrender. Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with that shit no more. I can go any fucking place I want to. I can do anything I want to. There's also that old saying that if you keep going to the barbershop long enough, you'll get a fucking haircut eventually. So the point is yeah, I can go in bars, I can go go in the fucking dope house if I wanted to. But if I stay long enough and my mind starts, transitioning back to that kind of lifestyle again, eventually I'd fucking use again. I don't want that to happen. So I don't frequent them places, and I damn sure stayed the hell away from them when I was first getting clean again. And it's the same thing like I was talking about with the people, giving up old playmates. Doesn't mean that we don't love them anymore. Great people. I know, God, family members that are, and friends that for years that are partiers, and God bless them, man, for whatever reason, they can handle it. They don't go till the wheels fall off like true alkies and addicts like me do. Once the shit's in our body, all bets are off. There's no fucking telling where we're going to stop. Not everybody's like that. And then there are those that I know in my life who I know are fucking addicted. Believe me, we can spot them each other a mile away. I don't judge you. I don't judge them. Do you? Point I'm making is, just because somebody, we don't judge people because they're using or drinking and think they're bad people. So don't make that mistake. Love all my friends and family to death that are able to drink or use or smoke weed or whatever, and it not interfere with their life. Do you? I'll do me. All I'm saying is, for anybody who may be watching this program that's going through it or about to try to go through it, you are going to want to stay away from them people that use and drink and party for a while, giving up the old playmates, playthings, play places until you get a solid footing. And then as you go down the road, maybe be able to incorporate that back into your life a little bit again. And I like what Kelly just said. Do what helps you, and don't worry about what anyone else says. And that's a good point, Kelly, because, and I appreciate everybody chiming in on the chat, because there are those, and I'm sure it's taken place with me even, who will make fun of you, laugh at you. In fact, I was telling, or I did a shout out earlier to one of my friends at the beginning of the show who we were talking about some things, and she just shared with me, not gossip or anything, just kind of a heads up, man, that, there were some people talking about you, man, like, oh, God, what's Glenn doing, and it's like, hey, people are going to make fun of us. They're going to laugh. That's the whole stigma attached to this fucking thing, At the end of the day, though, man, it's all about saving lives, and saving your life if you're going through it. Like Kelly just said, fuck what anybody else has to say. I do care to a certain extent what my kids think about me, what family members, people close to me think of me. Of course, I hope they think good of me. I also say that I have to do me. And there's that old saying that what other people think of me is none of my fucking business, That's on you. Whatever you think of me, that's you. You want to laugh at me, you want to make fun of me, you want to tease me, you want to hate me, whatever. Do you, man. Man, I just hate to see I'm occupying that much space in your mind rent-free that I'm the topic of conversation, I'm just doing me, and so... Like I said, with that, kind of brings things full circle, man. The whole idea of me doing me with this program is, like I said, right from the start. Hopefully, we're helping some other people. If we can help even one person, which I know for a fact we already have, it's all worth it, And then it is a certain amount of accountability for myself as well. So anyway, I'm kind of looking over my notes here, y'all. Yeah, there's some more stuff I could talk about. I got so much stuff, man. We can go on for 2-3 hours, but I got to be respectful of people's attention spans, man. Like I said, in this day and age of what's called micro content, and like I said, man, I'm the same way. I get on TikTok. If you ain't got my attention in 5 or 10 seconds on your video, I'm gone. I'm on to the next, man. But my hope is that for anybody who maybe is going through withdrawals or trying to get clean, is trying to kill some fucking time while they're going through the insomnia or climbing the walls, just looking for something that might help motivate them, keep their mind distracted off fucking thinking about going to get some more shit, that maybe they can kill an hour and a half or so by watching this program to helpfully or hopefully help get them fired up about getting clean and staying clean and living clean and saving their life. And then, furthermore, becoming a good example to other people, you know? That's the thing, man, with me. You know, it's a good way to maybe even end the show on, you know. Not to sound morbid, y'all, but, you know, life is so short, man. It goes by so quick. Like I've shared, man, I'm 61 years old now. God, if I live another 10 years, I'll be amazed, man, you know. And so at the end of the day, man, what do we leave behind when we go, you know? This program, I'm hoping will be part of my little legacy. Like I said, man, you know, this going live thing is great. It's kind of a rush being on the air live and having people chime in live and all that, you know. I appreciate, thanks for your comment there, Lori. A lot's going on in the chat here. You know, but my hope when we did this was to get this program recorded, and we'll do however many episodes we get by the end of the year, and then they'll be there. They'll be on the YouTube channel. They'll be out there on the podcast platforms from now till the end of the time, long after I'm long gone. And you know what? I think this information will still be relevant for years and years to come, just like that video I posted from Orange TV. That's from the year 2000, here 23 years later. And I watched that thing again, man, and all that information is just as relevant today, if not more, you know, than the day we did it 23 plus years ago. So anyhow, with all that said, just a friendly reminder again, there's a huge convention going on right here in Northern California in Sacramento next weekend. I know one of my buddies from Detroit, Shebang, was thinking about coming out for that, bro. If you catch this program, man, come on out, bro. You know you're always welcome here, man. Oh, God, I can't wait till we have Shebang on the program. He is one of our guests lined up. And speaking of the guests, just real quick, you know, I keep teasing that. And, you know, one of the reasons we haven't had a guest yet, it's all been by design, is that we just wanted to get some of these programs out of the way, working the kinks out, making sure everything's being done properly, no technical issues, and I think we're just about there. So I know even I've talked about my son G, who's going to be on here talking to us about fitness and exercise and shit. Him and his wife are down in the Keys this weekend. I'm so freaking jealous. I'm happy for him, but they're having a ball down there celebrating Juana's birthday, my daughter-in-law, his wife. So I think he's planning on being on with us next weekend, just so you know too, Dean. And we'll have him as like our first featured guest, and he'll be a regular on the program from time to time. Not every week, but he'll be on here. And then we'll start bringing some other guests in. And like I said, I mentioned Shebang, and I won't get into the whole list of name dropping, but we do have some really cool guests lined up that I know I actually even kind of biting at the bit on getting on this show and interacting with us, and I am so looking forward to that. And for anybody else watching, you know, I think you're whether you're watching live or you see the recorded version of this, you're really going to enjoy some of the guests coming up. So anyhow, if you can, make it out to that Northern California NA convention right here in Sacramento next weekend. So now I have a surprise. Dean, you and I talked about this at the beginning of the show. I teased this in some promos leading up to the program that we were going to start to incorporate this segment into the program right near the tail end called I Call Bullshit. And so we're going to do I Call Bullshit right now. Now, we, again, will always try to keep this program positive, talking about positive things, motivational things, trying to help people get clean, all that stuff. But isn't it true we all run into some bullshit out there in the world each and every day? And once in a while, I think sometimes people need to be called out, you know? And so we're going to do our very first I Call Bullshit segment right now. And if anybody else has a suggestion for an I Call Bullshit topic moving forward, just send it to us in the chat or message us, and we will very seriously look at and consider putting it on the program. So, leading into this week's I Call Bullshit, I mentioned earlier in the program, I don't work the most orthodox program when it comes to like the 12-step programs and all. I'm my own guy. I do me, you know what I mean? And I'm not one of them purists or whatever. So for me, and this is a topic we can talk about for probably a fucking hour on a future episode of the show. I like to drink every once in a while an NA beer. Whether it's an O'Doul's, a Heineken Zero, there's a shit ton of them out there. There's so many different kinds, it ain't even funny. Now, without getting into the whole topic for too long, there are some people in the program who think, oh my God, all you're doing is setting yourself up for a relapse, and it's all about the mindset. Oh God, I can't believe that. And how dare he even talk about that shit? It's like, dude, I'm a real one. I fucking talk about whatever the fuck I want to. You don't like what I'm talking about? Tune out and get your own fucking podcast. Talk about what you want to, you know? I'm just a real one. Put it all out there, man. I happen to like NA beers, and I also know people in the program who swear by them. God, especially in AA, I know people who are so grateful for the NA beers, say, oh my God, it was a godsend, man. I was trying so hard to get off the booze, and at least I could have some beers and not, you know, be putting alcohol in my body or getting drunk, you know. And so, hey, I ain't saying drink NA beers. I ain't saying don't drink NA beers. Do you? The fact of the matter is, they're out there. And for some of us, we like them and feel like, to a certain extent, for some of us, they've helped us. And so I don't drink them all day, every day, or on the regular, but every now and then I do like to have one. And you know what? I know people in the program, I ain't gonna call them out by name, but I got a couple of friends in the program. God, they got over 30 fucking years clean, and they're like connoisseurs of that shit. I got this one buddy, I'll just say his first name, Doug, man. He has NA parties, and he'll have in the kitchen a fucking variety of them things, you know, for people that he knows aren't triggered by that shit. Because there are some people who might be triggered by them, you know. If that's your case, stay the fuck away from them, you know. But don't judge me or any of us that think that they're an okay thing, or maybe even in some cases a good thing to help people get through that transition of getting sober. So anyhow, I set that whole thing up, and I told Dean about this before the show. I was in Orlando, about a month ago, Dean? I came to visit you at your studio there, and took care of some business, and I was in town. And so when I was flying back, I had a layover at the Atlanta airport I think I was there for a couple hours. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to kill some time. And there was a game on TV. And they have a TGIF Fridays in there. And, you know, I could see the TV screen. So I go, you know what, I'm going to go in there and fucking get me an O'Doul's and, you know, sit down at the bar and watch this game until it's time for me to go to my flight. Now, again, I don't recommend that for anybody that's just trying to get clean or just starting to get clean or going through it. I really don't think you want to be sitting at a fucking bar. Okay, I've been clean for over a couple of years, you know. Going to a fucking bar don't bother me, you know. I ain't staying there for no long period of time, you know what I mean? Anyway, I go in, I sit down, I'm watching the game, and so I ordered, they had Heineken Zero there, actually, and there's no alcohol in it at all. And so I drank it, man, and I'm like, oh, cool, yeah, I'm going to get another one. I didn't even think twice about what it would cost, you know. And so I had two of them, and I probably killed about an hour and a half in that place. You know, had a little snack, some nachos, and then I get my fucking bill, and they charged me over $10 a piece for them fucking Heineken Zeros. I can't even still fucking believe it, you know. So on that note, y'all, some of y'all remember I ordered this. It's called the Bullshit Button, and for TGIF Fridays, charging $10 for one fucking bottle of Heineken Zero.
Come on now, that ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit. Warning, bullshit alert.
Oh my God.
That was bullshit.
That was bullshit, man. There you go, Dean, that's bullshit. So come on, TGIF, over $10 for one fucking bottle of Heineken Zero. With taxes, service, fees, and all that other shit, it cost me almost $25 for two fucking bottles of Heineken Zero at TGIF. Now, I get it. I drank them at the airport, Atlanta airport for that matter. And I get it. When you go to a place like that or a concert venue or whatever the fuck, you're paying for where you're drinking it at. A ball game, you're not really paying for the product, you're paying for where you're drinking it at. But $10 fucking dollars? Are you kidding me? That's like insane, man. I don't even think they charge that much for a regular fucking beer if you bought a Budweiser or whatever the fuck. $10 fucking dollars. Furthermore, you know, maybe I got a little too fired up about it, but I told Dean, man, maybe it's a little different at the airport. If you go to any other fucking bar, maybe with some friends or whatever, and you're drinking O'Doul's, you ought to get them free. If you're the fucking designated driver or whatever the fuck, man, they ought to fucking provide you, at the very least, free sodas, if not free NA beers, you know. But come on, man, that was insane. So I call bullshit. On TGIF Fridays at the Atlanta airport and the company as a whole, man, y'all ought to take another look at that. That's just flat out price gouging, in my opinion, a highway robbery. And also, I think, at least for me, I felt disrespect for those that are trying to stay sober. I get it that it's a bar and that's the business that they're in there at that place, in addition to selling the food, is, you know, making money off of booze and that whole thing. But man, God almighty, talk about disrespect for somebody trying to stay sober, charging them over $10 fucking dollars for a bottle of Heineken Zero. That's crazy, man. You know, so anyway, that's our very first I Call Bullshit segment on the program. Man, I will tell you, I got another one coming up for Spectrum, you know, the whole cable thing, but I ain't going to get into that whole thing. But I got one there. I got one for Sprint. You get the idea, y'all. So if you have an idea for an I Call Bullshit segment, we'll take just a short little 5 minutes to call out some of these companies or places on some bullshit practices they have going on out there. Let me check this chat one more time before we go. Oh, okay, we got a couple people, Lori chiming in on the NA beers. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that more on upcoming shows, because I want to talk about, you know, what is referred often to as harm reduction, replacement therapy, you know, people that, you know, use things like Kratom, Suboxone, Methadone, NA beers, whatever the case may be. Kelly just chimed in again. Great show. Great to see you. Keep kicking ass. Thank you so much, Kelly. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Man, oh, man. I could keep going on telling some more stories, but we'll talk some more about that moving forward. So anyway, for everybody that chimed in on the chat today, thank you so much. We appreciate you participating. For anybody who may watch this recorded version of this show moving forward, we appreciate you chiming in. If you're a person going through withdrawals from opiates or trying to get clean off of whatever it may be, and you stumbled across this particular show, highly encourage you to maybe go back, watch the first 3 as well, and then hopefully keep tuning in as well moving forward. So with all that said, I think I've run out of gas for the day. Dean, can't thank you enough again for holding it down back in Orlando. Once again, everybody, I'm out here in Sacramento, California. Dean's in Orlando, Florida. We got people chiming in from Michigan, you know, and other places, you know. So we are nationwide with this program, worldwide. Hoping we get some people coming in from overseas. I know I've got some followers in London and Romania and different places. And, you know, because we're on the internet, man, we can bring people in from anywhere. So I'm excited about the future of this program and where it's going and the level of participation that we've had already. You know, obviously, we get many, many more people participating with the recorded version. And just kind of blows my mind the amount of views that we're getting after we go live, because we can see, you know, on the different platforms we're on, which, by the way, today we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But yeah, man, people watching the recorded versions, we can see the number of views, and we're definitely getting out there. So for anybody who, again, may watch the recorded version, we appreciate it, and we hope that you're finding this program beneficial, informational, and entertaining as well. So once again, y'all, I think I've run out of gas, but before we wrap up, Dean, thank you again for everything you're doing to keep us on the air and all the behind-the-scenes stuff we do all week. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, bro?
Like, follow, and share.
Yes,
it
yes.
does help us get out there. So
That's a big one, Dean. I appreciate you reminding us all of that, and I appreciate you putting that graphic up there, because just by doing that, y'all, you're helping us to do what our whole mission with this is hopefully help other people, because the more likes we get, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube is the platform where, I mean, I know we have our biggest following, at least right now, on Facebook, but we're really hoping to expand more on YouTube. That's where we're really hoping to get out the most. And if you go to the Dare Me YouTube page, you'll see that it's very clean, very concise. All the programs are listed there in chronological order. It's not a lot of clutter. It's very easy to navigate your way through all that and see them all. So again, any likes, follows, shares, it helps us with getting the program out there more with the algorithms on these different platforms. The more engagement the algorithms see, the more relevant they feel the program and the topic is, and it comes up higher in the searches. Is that a good way to explain it, Dean?
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So anyways, all right. Well, hey, Dean, we'll talk more off the air, and for everyone else, hope you have a safe week. Thank you so much for your time and participating in the program. And we'll see you next time, and hope to see anybody who might be able to make it at the Northern California NA Convention here in Sacramento next weekend, April 6th through the 9th. Until then, y'all, so long, and we'll talk again soon.
Have a good night.